Yeah. Let's go.
My name is Sheik Mozart and I'm here to explode important media topics with kids ministry pros. Whether you got a mega budget or just minimal dough. Welcome to the Kids Church Visual Show. Hello and welcome to the Kids Church Visual Show with Sheik Mozart. I'm Sheik Mozart from Church Visuals. This is a show that wants to help you visually communicate the gospel to your kids. On this episode of the Kids Church Visual Show with Sheik Mozart, we're going to be talking about everyone's favorite time-based visual, the countdown. But first, we're going to go live to ask you, what is a unique way to use a countdown in Kids Church? Here we go. What is a unique way to use countdowns in Kids Church, or just like a specific way that you use countdowns in the past?
We use the countdown we know a lot of kids aren't bringing a physical copy of a Bible, okay? But we have the countdown. Once the countdown starts, as long as you get to your seat and you have a Bible from our rack under your seat by the time the countdown counts, we'll count it for offering time, when we do offering time. And then the kids get down to a minute, and it's called the minute rush, and they rush around. They have to straighten everything up they've been playing with, and they all have to be in their seat before the last second counts down.
One of the things that we do is we use a countdown to bring everybody back from a break. So right before we get to our main spiritual content, we'll take a bathroom and a water break and like a play break. And so about 2 minutes into that, we'll throw up a countdown that's from Download Youth Ministry. It's like a dancing monster that's 5 minutes. And so then we have 5 minutes where the kids dance in front so they can get their way back to the seat. So kind of as like a breakup.
I use countdowns primarily right at the beginning. So our setting, we're a smaller church. And so our kids, our elementary age students, stay with the adults through the main or the opening worship song set. So they're in the main sanctuary for maybe 20 minutes, and then we get dismissed to Kids Church. And so for me, I need like a 5 to 10 minute transition time for my kids to kind of refocus into what we're doing in Kids Church. And so we enter the room and I immediately hit go on my countdown video, and it's worship videos in the background, and then there's a countdown overlaid.
Countdowns are that first trigger to engage kids in.
So our kids room has kids from age 3. So we have preschoolers up, and one of the rooms has preschoolers up until 2nd grade. So we have this really wide range. And so it is really hard to get those preschoolers transitioned out of the free playtime, which we start with every Sunday, into the lesson time. And so countdowns are essential to use for that. I just use a 30-second countdown, and 30 seconds is about how long it takes to get the group moved over from playtime into lesson time. And so that to me has been super valuable.
I like using countdowns as a way to signal for crowd control. I think it's really helpful for kids, especially kids that maybe are neurodivergent, or maybe they have some anxiety, they don't know what to expect. They can look up at a big screen and see, okay, we've got 2 minutes until something happens. And so it builds anticipation. It also helps the leaders know what's happening and how you're proceeding with the timeline of what's to come. And so I think countdowns are really helpful for that, just for thinking about the people in the room.
One thing we use countdowns for is letting kids know when their tasks are coming to an end. For kids that struggle with learning disabilities and different things like that, it can help them in advance, and then with transitions as well. Countdowns of when things are going to start and stuff too. But I think our biggest is really helping with the kids that have a hard time knowing when it's time to stop.
The countdown seems like a simple visual device, a timer that decreases every second until the desired starting point of a designated activity or event. However, countdowns can fulfill several important purposes, some of which you might not have even thought about before. Countdowns create anticipation. You've been here before. Kids get dropped off to Kids Church and they're enjoying their time hanging out with their friends, or engaging in a pre-service activity when someone yells, "Go to your seats." Yeah, I guess that works, but what if there was a way to display that you're getting ready to begin? And maybe the journey to their seats is turned into a competition. Once the countdown begins, the first person to clean up and find their seats gets a prize. And maybe, just maybe, the countdown itself has a built-in trivia game or other engaging element that can amuse kids as they're watching those numbers drop. Countdowns create team communication. Countdowns help you communicate with kids, but just as importantly, they help you communicate with your team. When that 5-minute timer hits the screen, every volunteer in your room knows that they need to get in battle position to create the best Kids Church service of all time. Countdowns create time limits. Countdowns don't have to be used just before your service begins. Countdowns can also be used for segments such as small group time, meet and greet, or any other segment that has a designated time limit. That way, your kids know when the next segment is happening, and your volunteers know when they have to wrap up the current activity. Countdowns create excitement. Long countdowns like the 5-minute ones create anticipation. Short countdowns, 60 or 30 seconds long, can create excitement. You can use a 60-second countdown with a game. How many beanbags can you catch in 60 seconds? Or how about a 30-second countdown to see how long someone can keep a balloon floating in the air? A short countdown can turn anything into a challenge and get your kids and volunteers out of their seats and participating. All right, welcome back to the Kids Church Visual Show with Sheik Mozart. I'm Sheik Mozart, and with me I have a creative genius whose gift is unparalleled. One of our video producers here at Church Visuals, JT Cheek. JT, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, man. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for joining us today and for talking about this very important topic that is countdowns.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah. So tell us, before we get started, JT, tell me about your experience in ministry and how you ended up on the Church Visuals team.
So I started serving with church media probably back around 2010 at a church here in town that I'm a partner at called Crosspoint Church. And then I'd say maybe 3 or 4 years ago, I got connected with Carl on Facebook back when we were 1230, and now I'm a part of the Church Visuals team.
Yeah, for sure. And so when you started in the media ministry, what are some roles that you've been a part of over the years?
So I was at the church I was at. It was creative arts director. Now, a lot of times that can be a very vague term depending on what church you're a part of. But my focus has always been content creation. So branding, sermon series, bumper videos, testimonial videos, handling, basically everything you see on the screens. So I was pretty much an in-house church visuals for the church I was a part of.
Okay. And are you kind of a generalist when it comes to design work? Are you doing video and graphic design, or do you prefer one over the other?
I would say, preference-wise, I love all things post-production the most. That might be partially because I'm kind of lazy. I like sitting at a desk and, being inside. But also that's always, for me, been the most exciting because that's where everything sort of comes together. That's where, you basically take all of the things that you've been doing, whether filming or artwork or, whatever, and you're putting it together and you're seeing the project come together and you get to see the final work, which is always a big payoff for me.
What's been your involvement with children's ministry over the years?
Well, I'll actually say it's been church visuals that has taken me into the realm of kids media. And I've been enjoying it ever since. At the church I was at, they might need the occasional lyric video. A lot of the focus may have been more on, our Sunday morning service. So, they would pull maybe some stock stuff, but it was really getting involved with church visuals that, where I started actually creating media for kids. And I really started seeing the value of media for kids.
Yeah, that's awesome. And do you think it's important to have visuals in kids ministry?
Absolutely. Yes. I think we all kind of fall into the temptation. I'm definitely talking to myself here. Maybe when you're at a church and maybe if you're, in a position like I was, where you're sort of more over all the media of the church, it can kind of be easy for us to reason to maybe put the kids stuff, whatever we invest in media, kind of put that on the back burner.
Sure.
But now being a part of creating kids media and having kids of my own and seeing, how their brain works, seeing how they learn, I'm kind of seeing that, you could almost make the case that, if a church is investing in media and utilizing media, that needs to be, probably most apparent in the kids ministry arena, where these are, this is probably this is nothing new what I'm about to say, but these are the future leaders of our church.
Sure.
And we're trying to communicate to them the most important message in the world. Yeah. So we need to, sort of pull out all the stops creatively and communicating that message. And that definitely, means media, whether it's, videos, games, countdowns, that needs to be a sort of definite tool in our arsenal to communicate what we're trying to communicate in a way that is engaging and in a way that sticks.
So JT, today we're talking about countdowns on this episode. What I wanted to do is to kind of go through your process for creating the countdowns that we have on churchvisuals.com. And also because you're such a prolific creator of kids content for the organization. Some of the games that you make are some of our favorite products, some of my favorite products that we have on the site. So I wanted to go through that with you as well. But before we begin, can you tell me about kind of your thought process for creating countdowns for kids?
Yeah, well, I would say first off, in general, the media that I will create as kids for kids, you'll look at that and probably see it as a good deal busier, I guess I could say, than media I might produce for adult ministries. And creatively speaking, producing media for kids, I've definitely been there's definitely me stepping outside of my comfort zone on maybe like what I'm willing to try to do or try to pull off in a video or a countdown. So specifically for like countdowns, and this probably is still across the board, but the colors need to be bright, music needs to be upbeat, needs to be a lot of movement, as much as we can nod to, and be, knowledgeable of whatever the kids are looking at during the week. I think there's like we have either come out or maybe already out like a Minecraft kind of themed pack and things like that, trying to engage in that way as much as possible. Anything we can do to make it, an engaging thing where they're a part of it. So if you're, turning the countdown into a game, I think is great. Turn it into trivia, I think is great. Down that road, if you go down that road, I even think, maybe you wouldn't think about doing this in a countdown as much, but even incorporating voiceover, into those games and countdowns. So I guess all to say, big text, bright colors, things moving all the time, upbeat music, things like that.
That's awesome. Well, let's start digging in. Could you introduce this countdown? Kind of tell us what it is and how you went about creating it.
So this is kind of an example of sort of maybe me stepping outside of what my normal comfort zone would have been up to this point. I got the creative for this of doing this, having an astronaut versus a robot dance off. And this was kind of something, I'll be honest, where I was like, what is this? Is this something that's going to turn out good? And it turned out great. I think we actually have a couple of different like verses countdowns on our website.
This
and
kind of spawned a whole series.
Yeah, and I think this is, it's not exactly a game, but I find it to be very engaging. I can see definitely your kids, cheering on and picking who they want to maybe sort of win, or, maybe even, my kids love to try to emulate and practice dance moves.
Right.
So I think that'll get people. This is definitely one that I think will get kids engaged and excited for the service, which is really what it's all about with countdowns.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And, as a former kids pastor, kids ministry leader, I could see myself as this countdown is playing, kind of encouraging the kids in Kids Church to do some of these moves, and yeah, kind of scream along with it. It's such a great, fun countdown. JT, tell me about this one.
Well, I think Bible trivia just in general is great for kids. We had a little Bible trivia sesh at our dinner table last night, and the kids even just got into that. Bible trivia is a great way for kids to memorize facts about Scripture. And that's powerful in the long run, when kids develop an understanding of Scripture and what happens there. That's them sort of storing up that knowledge, is the way I kind of look at it. So anything Bible trivia with kids, I think, is great. I loved the colors and all the cool shapes and stuff. That's kind of, I love the style that this came out. I think this is definitely, I think it works for kids just because of how engaging that side, the creative side of it is. So it was a lot of fun making this.
Yeah, I love these colors. I love the whole look. I mean, you did a killer job with this. And I think what's cool about a countdown like this, we may think that once kids have seen the answers, they won't want to watch it again. But what I found is that kids like seeing this stuff over and over again, because then they kind of, when the question comes up, they feel the sense of mastery that they already know what the answer is,
Absolutely.
So they'll start like screaming the answers as if they're seeing it for the first time when they've seen it a couple times, which is such a kid specific trait.
Absolutely, yeah, couldn't agree more.
Have you ever had a chance to use these products in a church, or do you know someone who's used it?
Most of this stuff is, for me, is sort of, I'm on the front end of all this. But one of the things Carl Barnhill does, which is great, is every once in a while on staff, he'll bring people in to our meetings to kind of tell us how they're enjoying the media, how they're using it. He did that recently with a kid men leader, and that was awesome. It was awesome getting to see the space that they worked in, how they're utilizing the different kids media stuff, and what sort of works, what she sort of gravitated to. So I definitely enjoyed getting to hear that.
All right, let's look at some of your games. So tell me a little bit about this game.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this. This is kind of part of some series media that we did that's also available on the site. This was cool because I like the use of having basically a character was involved, like a main character. You have this kid, I guess, who we're naming Nick, time traveling with his sidekick, going through this wormhole. And it's kind of like, the way I see it is sort of we're helping him progress as we answer these questions. So I think all that's very definitely, something that kids are going to want to, in the moments leading up to the service, going to want to sit down, get engaged again with sort of the story element that we're putting in place. and give them even like a bigger sort of drive to want to answer the questions and get the questions right.
All right. So this is Room. Tell us a little bit about this game.
So Vroom is more of like an active game for kids. This is them getting up and following instructions. So, and I think, probably anybody that's in charge of kids at all will tell you the need to sort of, get the wiggles out maybe before we are in the midst of our services. And this is kind of the game sort of to do that. They're going to be running in place, jumping, definitely some creative ideas that
cow is about to get hit.
I know. That's like, we need to turn real quick. I remember them giving me the situations and just being like, I don't know how I'm going to pull this off, but I'll just go in. And so I think this is be a fun game. Again, just to more of a physically driven game,
Sure.
This
animation is killer.
Yeah, whenever I see that happen, whenever you, I feel like whenever you are instructing kids to do stuff like that, like get up, run in place, turn to the right, and they're under some, impression that I got to do it so this car can get to where they're going. I see them kind of just, dive right in there, and follow the instructions. They're almost kind of like they've been, waiting to do something like this. So I think it's a great game to, again, get those wiggles out, get them excited, get them engaged.
Yeah, I agree completely. I love that one.
Yeah.
Then the famous turkey race. This is one of my favorite games that we've done. Tell me a little bit about this one.
My favorite part of this is probably the voiceover.
Yeah.
He not only did a killer job with narrating, but he actually provided me with the turkey sound effect himself. So that was really cool. And again, I think it's not quite as, it's not quite as heavy on like the running in place and stuff like that, but it still is that sort of more physical engagement and, getting your kids making noise. I think kids love making noise. And I think churches love it when they can hear that. The church I'm at, we used to be like right next, our sanctuary used to be right next to the kids ministry room. So there'd be times during the service where we would hear the kids randomly just scream in the middle of the service. But we always loved hearing it, because we always loved hearing like kids getting engaged and being excited, and that's a big part of, I think, all of this is kids being excited about going to whether it's a midweek service or whether it's a service that happens during church on Sunday. And I think this is a good game to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree, and I like that we have a mixture of games that are sort of very Bible focused and some that are a lot more just kind of fun.
Right.
Because I think all of us as people kind of need a little bit of both,
Absolutely.
And what's cool about the games too is that they fit so well right alongside your countdown, So what I've often done is I would have my countdown play and then go right into a game. That way, when that countdown hits 0, there's an immediate kind of call to action and call to attention from the screen to get kids up and moving,
Absolutely. And I can even remember, I have memories of doing that as a kid involved in kids ministry. And I remember the effect that, putting up a fun game like that on the screen, the effect that had on me with just the overall experience of the service,
Sure.
So a game, as simple as something like that, stuck with me even now. I'm 37 years old. And so there's definitely even with the funner games, there's a tremendous amount of, I think, even spiritual value to those.
Yeah, I agree. Give me some final thoughts.
Yeah, I just want to invite you, if you're a kids men leader, we're here for you. We're all here, and I think, kids, man, we could be talking to a wide variety of people in a wide variety of situations. Could be a situations where you have a great, a lot of resources in church in-house that you can use, or a situation maybe where you're kind of building it from the ground up. But we put a lot of time and intentionality into coming up with ideas that will be engaging for the kids. And hopefully, I want to invite you to kind of go on the site, check it out, and let your creativity run wild. Obviously there's a lot of media that may be designed to be used in specific ways, but there's also just a lot of media for you to download and just to have in your creative arsenal, just to utilize how you best see fit in your service. So whatever that desire maybe that you have to take your kids, men service to the next level, I'd say start with logging on to Church Visuals and seeing what's available and seeing how we can help you out.
Yeah, for sure. And JT, if people want to reach out to you, if they want to see some of the stuff you're working on, how can they find you?
You can find me. I have a couple pages on Instagram. There's JT Sheik. You can follow me there. There's also jtcreative.me. That's my website, jtcreative.me. And then you can also find me an account on Instagram there.
So how would you use a countdown? Let us know. Thank you for joining us on the Kids Church Visual Show with Sheik Mozart. I'm Sheik Mozart, and I want you to know that your Kids Church visuals matter. When I was a kids and youth pastor, it felt like my ministry was the world's most unsolvable Rubik's Cube. Every time I tried to fix one thing, I messed up a bunch of other things. You try to make things better for one person, and someone else gets upset. Or you spend time perfecting one thing, and there are a bunch of other things that get forgotten about. And there were times when no matter how hard I twisted and I turned, it only seemed to make things worse. But that's because I was trying to do things by myself and in my own power. I had to learn to rely on God and the people that He had placed around me. For ministry leaders and teams that are struggling with their visuals, you've got this. God has placed you where you are with a purpose, with a plan. I believe that as you continue to serve and minister faithfully, God is going to send you the people that you need to do what He's called you to do. This has been a podcast presentation of Church Visuals. Executive produced by Carl Barnhill. Hosted and edited by Sheik Mozart. Title and show graphics by Jason Merrick. For more training to help you visually communicate the gospel in your children's ministry, visit churchvisuals.com.